Hello, everyone, and welcome to this interview. And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really pleased to be here with Emma Jane, who's an amazing family daycare educator, who's going to share with us a little bit about her practices. And before she does this, I might just let her introduce herself a bit to you.
Hi, I'm Emma Jane Collard. I've been in family daycare for just over 2 years now, and I care for ages between about 8 months to 4 years. I'm in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales in a rural area.
It's really nice, Emma Jane, to be able to sort of have an idea of where you're coming from as well when people are listening to you and hearing some of the practices that you're going to talk to us about today. So thank you for giving us a bit of that background. Um, so I'll start with our first question, which is, what does language and literacy look like in your practice? Because I think in lots of people's practice it looks different, or how we think of that is different. So can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like in your practice?
Yeah, so for me, language and literacy are intertwined into every part of our day. It's not just about reading books, although we really love our story time together. It's about creating a rich and language filled environment through songs, rhymes, and playful conversations throughout the day. I use a lot of repetition, especially with songs and familiar phrases, because children learn so much more through hearing words over and over. We sing throughout the day, whether it's the tidy up song at the end of the day, a counting rhyme while we're playing, or lullabies at nap time. We love singing a lot. Um, I also love using language during our sensory play. We do a lot of sensory play, whether it's scooping rice or exploring fizzy potions, or squishing Play-Doh. I'm constantly describing the textures, the colors, the actions. It helps build vocabulary in a really natural way
Yeah,
and encourages the
fabulous.
children to start using those words themselves, like I'm squishing the Play-Doh.
Nice. That's great. I'm a book lover as well. But I also love hearing you talk about, the different ways through music, through song and things like that, that you're integrating it. And you also touched on sort of that everyday kind of moments. So can you tell us a little bit more about maybe those everyday moments, perhaps like whether it's nappy change, meal times, those kind of things, and how you might use that to support communication?
Yeah, so like I really believe those everyday moments are the best times for building language and connection with our children. During things like nappy changes, taking the opportunity to just explain what you're doing and describing, I'm taking your pants off and I'm touching your toes. Um, it turns that routine task into a little conversation, and you can even take that time to be singing some songs and just interacting together. We have a little window close to where I do nappy changes, point out birds or the trees. Especially in like outdoor time, we spend a lot of time outside. We point out things like the birds or a butterfly, what shape the clouds look like. It's just such a lovely way to spark that curiosity and encourage children to respond and ask their own questions about nature and life.
Yeah.
Um, I also make a huge point of consistently asking open and closed ended questions throughout the day, no matter what we're doing. Gives
Yeah.
children that agency and like a chance to speak about how they're feeling and how they're seeing the world.
Yeah, that's great. You're right, and it gives them a chance to try out all those new words as well that surrounding them with. Um, Gives them an opportunity to think about different ways to ask questions or to gather information about their world and things like that. That was really nice. And listening to you talk about, nappy change experiences, I can imagine even with, non-verbal children, that back and forth non-verbal exchange, the smiling and the surprised face and all of those kind of things are a really nice example of that non-verbal communication, which is so critical as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing those. Okay, now I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about a story perhaps or a period, something related to your setting where you saw a child's language grow over time.
Yeah. So I was caring for an 18-month-old boy about 12 months ago, and his primary way of communicating in the early stages of his language was using echolalia, which is repeating heard words and phrases. And sometimes it would be like an instant repeat, and sometimes it would be things that he'd heard previously from a TV show or things that his parents were saying. So after connecting with his family and collaborating, we created some strategies to really support his emerging language. So we made that extra time to just give him that one-on-one time, asking open and closed ended questions, reading books together that were of his interest. So things like dinosaurs, he was very interested in dinosaurs. And in those books, he would really interact and repeat so many things that he was hearing from the books, names of the dinosaurs, that they had spikes on their backs, and just give him that space and time to build that confidence in his language. And over time, he blossomed naturally. And it's just a wonderful reminder that every child's developmental journey is so unique. And sometimes with extra patience, partnership, and that support, we see such incredible growth unfold.
Yeah, that's such a really great point to remember that in all aspects of our education and care, that children are unique. And there will be some similarities about how, language and early literacy skills evolve and develop over time, and they'll look really different as well for lots of different children, and they'll reach them at different points in time as well. So it's really important to note those things too. I also love how you talk about tapping into his interests. I think that's such a great tool and a valuable way to really build on that concept of sustained shared thinking, because when it's of interest to you, whether you are 2 or 22 or 42, if it's of interest to you, you're more engaged in it, you're more wanting to talk about it, wonder about it, think about it. So they're great examples. Thank you for sharing that. And I noted too that, you began your conversation around that partnerships with the family and how important that is, which actually leads me really nicely to our next question, which is, can you think of a time or any advice you've given to families in the past about how they can build a literacy or language rich environment in their homes?
Yeah, so I do truly believe that, it all starts with building that strong partnership with your families. And I chat with them regularly, daily, about their child's language milestones and their interests, which, obviously changing every day. Together, we look for those simple ways to weave literacy into everyday life. Simple things like singing those nursery rhymes throughout the day, intertwining it into what you're doing at the time, spotting letters and words on signs as you're walking down the street, sharing bedtime stories at night, which is so important. I know that life can be so busy, but it is really important for parents to give that time. I also love bringing family input into our program as much as possible. If a child has a book or a song that they just adore and can't stop singing at home, I do include that into our program. We play it throughout the day, or we use it in our sensory setups. And obviously we love doing a lot of bookish play. So yeah, like books like The Gruffalo, which use a lot of
Yeah.
repetition throughout. It's a really good book to start off with. So I'll include that all in our program, and it helps children feel that connection and makes learning and literacy so much more meaningful for them. Um, we celebrate our little wins together, family and myself. Whether it's just a new word that's learnt during the day, making sure that we're communicating about that, recognizing a letter or joining in a little rhyme. It's those moments at home and in care that create such a truly rich and supportive literacy environment.
Lovely. Yeah, I really like it's a really nice way to look at that partnership with families and how you're in this together as well, not just providing a service to families. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you provided them with some really nice, though, practical ways that they can do this that are achievable as well within their homes where they're not feeling overwhelmed and things like that too. So that's wonderful. Listening to you talk about the Gruffalo as well made me think about how valuable it is to really think about the books that we choose to have with children, and if there are, particular language and literacy skills that we're trying to harness, whether it be things like introducing them to new vocabulary, wider vocabulary, or whether it's um, introducing them to rhyme and repetition and things like that as well. So it's nice for educators to be able to hear that and then to think, okay, well, next time I'm purchasing some books for um, my setting, what am I hoping to achieve? What areas of children's learning am I wanting to support as well? So that was a really great tip, which leads us to our last question. Um, have you got any fellow advice for your fellow educators? Maybe your three hot tips, perhaps, that you would recommend.
So my biggest piece of advice is to always remember that language and learning happens in the everyday. So it's just those ordinary moments. They don't have to be complicated or formal. Simple things like having a conversation during play, singing songs, reading stories together, and just narrating what you're doing while you're doing it can make such a huge difference. Follow the child's lead and tune into what excites them, what they're interested in. Do they love animals? Do they love trucks or dinosaurs? Use that to spark those rich language experiences. And don't be afraid of using repetition. Children thrive on hearing the same stories, the same songs, those same phrases over and over. That's how they learn those new words and build confidence to join in. Lastly, celebrate the milestones, even the little milestones. Every single new word, babble, or non-verbal, communication, those attempts to join in are what matters. Share those moments with your families because it strengthens your connection and it reinforces that importance of language-rich environments at home.
Wonderful. That is such a beautiful point to end on. So, thank you very much for all of your ideas and feedback and sharing your journey and your story about how you're supporting children's language and literacy in your family daycare setting. It's been lovely to talk with you, Emma Jane. Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.